So first of all, you guys, thank you for coming down from Phoenix. And again, Dave, we had you down a couple weeks ago, so thank you for a return. This is great having you guys together.
Absolutely. And
Happy
apparently
to be
you're a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Just having the two of us on today. So
we're gonna all that work you did in the studio, we're just gonna tear it down, man.
yeah,
That's okay.
without a doubt.
As long as it's you guys. That's
Yeah,
okay.
right. Yeah.
If anybody I wanted to tear it down, it would be you guys.
Your viewership's just gonna go through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you were at ThinkCurity, do you know Carlos Francisco?
I don't know if I know him or not.
Okay. Meta guy, Facebook, data center guy. In 2021 or 22, we went to GSX.
Okay.
And we did a ThinkCurity like stand-up thing. I don't know if you were there but y'all sponsored us. And I'm Kerry Carlos's bags. Like, whatever he needs, I'm there. I'm his sidekick. And so he was like, just come and we're going to do this thing, ThinkCurity, and we're going to do a bunch of podcasts for him. And it was interesting. And I wish they would have done more, but.
Yeah, I started ThinkCurity.
Okay.
And then when I sold, my team asked me, hey, Chris, can we have ThinkCurity? I was like, God, all right. So I gave them with the idea that we were going to move forward with that. And the team that I had, my culture was trained, and they understood the industry. That's why it died. Then Jeff D. Domenico, good friend of mine, I love him.
Okay.
More than qualified, of course, but we're talking security industry, really heavy.
Yeah.
So it plateaued, didn't really go anywhere. Now I think they're going to try to bring it back, but I turned it loose right after the sell. I gave them everything, but that was my thought
thing to do, though.
So I'm coming back in my own way now.
I just think it was a clever idea. Let's let thought leaders and things like that. But I think you're doing it now.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah.
It's people. It's not corporate. That's corporate.
No.
Right.
That's corporate to me. And I don't mean to sound insulting, but it's just the idea was to bring honest people in, share the truth, not ask them for $1 afterwards.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just everybody share their pain. But yeah.
I dig it.
But I love what you guys are doing, man. I really do. Scott, I'd go through your resume, but we don't have 3 hours. Dave, you're the same way.
I know.
Scott, I was looking at it last night. I go, my God, I'm embarrassed. I should have told you to come in next week so I can take the whole week to study you, but
No.
very impressive.
I can't stay still. That's the ADHD.
Do you have ADHD?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
You too?
Undiagnosed. Now, my daughter's a therapist. She says I have it. I don't know if that's malpractice or not. In fact, delete that. We just cut that out.
I just subscribe to caffeine and patriotism, sir.
Yeah.
That's how I roll.
Yeah.
Right.
Guns and coffee.
Yeah.
By the way, you guys are a great team.
We've known each other
Yes.
for
Decades.
a long time. Yeah. We'll tell that story. That's way more fun. Maybe. And maybe it's going to not be fun. But it's more interesting, I think, when you go, like, how the heck do you guys still, like, how are you connected first? And then how are you still connected 2 decades later? We started on, we were literally the second class or the first class?
We were the very first
The first class of a resurgence of a special response team with the Department of Energy. Can I give the history? Are you cool with that?
Please.
Okay,
Please.
so quick story. Department of Energy controls all of the national laboratories and the nuclear material, anywhere there's nuclear material. So if you have a power station, you fall under certain security standards. And for many years, the place that we worked, which we won't say, was supposed to have a special response team, or what we know is a SWAT team, and they didn't. And so they got audited, and they said, oh, we got to hire a bunch of SWAT guys. And so I don't remember how you got the word, but anyways, we get hired together, and at that time, I retired from the Air Force, I will say. But at that time, I was the only Coast Guard guy in our academy class.
That is true.
We had Special Forces guys, SWAT cops, Security Forces SWAT guys, like Marines, Scout snipers, EOD guys, Coast Guard guys. I was just happy to be hanging out with these guys, let alone now we're going through what I think, and is still probably one of the hardest SWAT academies to go through. Really high standards, and I don't think physically it's any harder, but I think the way that they shoot is probably their qualification courses are pretty top notch, even today by today's standards.
Yeah.
So that's where we met, and in fact, we weren't necessarily in the same friends group, but we worked together. We were on the same shifts because the way they worked it there, we were on like 12-hour shifts, 5 days a week, and it was crazy time there because this is right before 9/11. right?
And
that's where we met and we started. And then I came to LA, became a federal police officer here. He comes to LA, and just to show me up, because I can't do something that is more outstanding than him. 'Cause, by the way, we're like pretty much brothers. Like we say that, and we ain't joking.
Yeah.
So he comes to this agency, and he becomes, you were a background investigator and a sergeant. I was just some crappy patrol officer. Is that how it worked?
I didn't want any of that.
And then I go on to be a federal agent. He goes on to be the chief of police, believe it or not. And when he got hired, I was like, do they know your background? They didn't come talk to me, bro, and they hired you.
Literally, I'm just as astonished as you are.
No one was more surprised than me.
Nobody is more surprised than me.
But even though our careers have done bifurcated a bit, we've always stayed in touch, mainly because I couldn't get out of California and you were in Southern California. Mm-hmm. And then when I retired from federal service, I go into the private sector. We still stayed in touch, still did stuff together. He retires, goes in the private sector. We still stayed together, still stayed in touch. Whatever I can do to support him and his mission, he knows I'm there for that. And that's the beauty of this brotherhood, four branches idea, right? We chewed the same dirt. We went through the same shit together. Sorry, can we cuss on this?
Absolutely.
Okay. You can bleep it out if you need to.
No.
But yeah, we came together and we've stayed together ever since, I think, as partners, and we're now working together in kind of the private sector and business and helping each other build our businesses. When he has a need, he calls me. When I have a need, I call him. Our resources get utilized the same way. And I think that's a bigger story than even what we've done professionally. But we've never been the kind of guys to just stop and be okay. You don't golf. I don't fish. We don't have hobbies.
Due to my height, I miniature golf. That's where I roll. But that windmill, it plays hell with me.
Yeah, there better be a clown somewhere on that course.
You're gonna die, clown. Hopefully, I don't get sued by Adam Sandler for that. But
you're definitely getting sued.
Yeah,
you're definitely getting sued. Okay. So he's the uncle to my kids, and they know him as Uncle Dave, and that's just, he's always been part of our life. But there's a small brotherhood like that have always been there. And even though we're all off in different places, we all come back and we all take care of each other.
I think that's what it was when I met you guys in Phoenix, man.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, I just immediately took to you guys. I just loved your personality. I saw the brotherhood immediately. And I guess it kind of brought me back to law enforcement, some of the good guys that I worked with. And I miss that because I don't want to say I work with kids, but I got a younger group of people, and I find myself secluded here. I don't golf, I don't fish, I like to fly. I've done it, but it's like I'm so committed to the cause here, trying to do something different. Getting to the age where I'm going to go underground pretty soon, so I'm trying to make up the file cabinet.
Yeah.
You know? Wait a little bit longer, you might get uploaded to the cloud.
Really?
Yeah.
That could happen.
I think it could happen.
I think that could happen.
Yeah, 2032, 2033.
Yeah.
It's already happening. AI avatars.
Yeah, but that's not upload your consciousness. That's what I'm talking about.
I got it.
Yeah.
Well,
upload his consciousness.
Does my body have to be cycled through AWS, or how does it work?
That's how they power AWS.
I'm pretty sure that's law. I don't know. But it's funny when you say brotherhood, because I feel like family is who you make it. That blood does not define family.
That's right.
Because there's plenty of people out there that have blood relations with people that they have no relationships with, and it's because of who they are. And Scott and family have supported me and through very difficult times, which you can't put a price tag on that. There's trust and loyalty go very far. I trust Scott with my life, hands down. And I don't say that about a lot of people. I would say there are people in our circle that I would say that about, just because they've proven themselves to be that way. But the reality is, it's just in line with the four branches ethos. And I think it's also, you gravitate towards people that not that you necessarily think alike. Sometimes you pull in people who challenge you. And I've always had the mentality of, I want to surround myself with people better than me. And I have. I'm sitting here right here.
That's right.
And that's how I view the world, because you are the sum of the 5 closest people that you pal around with. So for those of you out there, check your network if you're not where you want to be, because sometimes that can be a factor, not the whole thing. I think a lot of it comes from in here. If you're not willing to do the work, then you're probably not going to get to where you want to be. But you also may have people in your network who are either holding you back or not enabling you in a way to do those things.
Or being honest with you.
100%.
Like, he'll come up with an idea and be like, hey, bro, what do you think? I'm like, and I'll tell him straight, yeah, it's a great idea. No, hey, think about it this way. And he does the same thing for me. And I think being honest with the people that are around you is really important nowadays because there's so much noise and there's so many things coming in. Oh, I read this book. I was on this podcast. And some of those are going to be good influence, but some of them are not going to be good influence.
Yep. And a point of note, I do bring a lot of ideas to Scott, and most of the time is I wouldn't do that shit if I were. So
unless you were drunk, then don't do it.
So every time. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
Got you. I hear you.
Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted to go that way.
No, I love it. I have one buddy like that, so I could call him up. I could be in New York and say, hey, I got a problem. And he wouldn't ask me, what's wrong? I could say, hey, I need you. He'd say, okay, well, give me an address. I'll see you.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Click. So, yeah, and I'll give you a shout out, Steve Thorson.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it.
34. Yeah. It's so funny. I got him in law enforcement. Poor guy. We worked together when we were with the phone company many years ago. And I said, hey, you should do this. He did it. Now his kids are on the department.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible.
That's awesome.
We T-balled
Legacy.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I'm like their uncle. So it's pretty cool.
Yep.
So thank you for sharing that. I really do. Let's get into, you know what? Here's what Marlon was here. Marlon Marachi, just met him.
Yeah, I love that guy.
IA guy. Thank you for coming.
Great stuff.
Thank you for
Marlon's
coming,
best.
Marlon. He brought up a really good point, and it was very interesting. I don't throw my business card up front. It just people can look me up or in the back end. Just open up the conversation. Don't need to boast about it. And you guys such a big record. I know that's how you're built. I know it's how you're built. So let's just get into it real quick. I really loved our conversation out there. And let's talk security, and then let's go EP.
Yeah.
No, I like it.
Yeah.
Scott, you don't mind that presentation? By the way, dude, I know people tell you this all the time. I'm going to just say it again. You're probably one of the best speakers.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. Very sincere, very open. I wanted to listen. I wanted to be there, and you just reeked humble, right? And I think everybody picked up, not just a few. So I want to say that because that was a big impact on me, and I liked you immediately.
Means a lot. Thank you.
But I really liked what you said on the PowerPoint. So I'm going to shut up, and can you take us for what we talked about there, security, where it's going?
Yeah. And so I'll tell everybody the event, Security X, from a gentleman named Klaus, got this great idea. He's putting together this road show. Tampa's coming up, I think. Check him out. He's a great guy. And it's a really unique kind of branding opportunity. I met Klaus on a cruise. Happened to be the Chuck Andrews security guy cruise.
Oh, the Friends of Chuck.
The Friends of Chuck cruise, yes. And no idea who this guy was. He was a big German guy, EP guy. And so we started talking. I'm like, I love this guy. He gets it, right? And he's from Germany. He was a German cop. And so he says, I'm going to do this thing, and I want Phoenix to be the first place. And I was like, of all places, you want to go to Phoenix? Okay, brother. I talk a lot about what I call law enforcement zero. And I'll get into that and tell you and help the audience understand why I think this is really important. And then there's a feed into security and where the future security is going. I think it all directly impacts our communities and our business safety. So Klaus asked me to present Law Enforcement Zero, which is essentially a look at law enforcement as a profession, as well as how it impacts society, looking at it from a generational standpoint, from a social justice standpoint, and from hiring, from policies and procedures, how the world perceives our law enforcement partners. And I've been doing a lot of research over the last 5 years on it, ever since COVID and lockdowns and the BLM riots in the late 2010s, just looking at, hey, we're running out of cops. And I did hijack a little bit from Ian Bremmer from G0 World and G0 Media. He wrote some great books. He really understands demography and those kind of geopolitics stuff. So I borrowed from him, and I thought, gosh, we are losing the biggest generation of law enforcement officers that we've ever had. And what is that impact on society and on law enforcement as a career? Additionally, and Dave really helped me understand this too, how does that impact security? Whether that's corporate security or security guarding or even armed civilians now, we've talked about a little bit. It's really interesting when you start looking at these kind of ebbs and flows of people coming in and out of these sheepdog careers. The military is not immune from this either. It's going to affect, and it's starting to affect, everything that we see in society. So when we look at, I studied a lot about these different generations, baby boom generation. And again, I'm not here to blame, and I said this in my presentation, not here to blame anybody, but I think we need to get ready for what's coming next and the evolution of, okay, today we have people, we have enough people. We know we don't have enough people, but let's just say we know we have people to do jobs and to do these things that we need. Tomorrow we won't. As the world population is peaked already and is on its way down, we're seeing a global zero population. And so when we talk about law enforcement, public safety in those terms, something that is very human-based. When you have a fire in your house, you call the fire department, and big, burly men and women come with ladders and hoses, and they put wet stuff on red stuff, right? Thank God for them. Tomorrow, we might not, that engine company of 4 people, 4 firefighters, is going to be 2 because they just don't have the population to support what they're doing. And so how does society now prepare for that tomorrow? And we were talking a little bit earlier about what does security look like in the future. And we were talking about observe and report. That is how every security guard is trained for the most part in the United States and California. Observe and report. My technology can observe and report now. We're using analytics and AI on the back end and machine learning and object detection and recognition. And we're able to with, I'll use a Jensen Huang from NVIDIA term, a compute at the edge, at the device is computing. What is the threat? What's the issue? Hey, somebody just walked by this camera, they're walking a dog. Hey, somebody just walked by this camera, they're carrying a rifle. Okay, that's the one where we call the police, right? Or automation calls law enforcement. So as we're evolving a society with less humans in it, we need to be comfortable, not complacent, but comfortable with AI, robotics, drones, machine learning, technology, because that's, to some extent, all we'll have. And I told the story, I was on a panel a couple of years ago with Christian West, great guy, awesome, the SME for executive protection. And I was like the strap hanger on this panel. There's all these experts and there's me. And he wants me to kick it off. Hey, tell everybody, what do you think the future of executive protection will be? And I said, robots. And everybody laughed and I didn't laugh. And now we see it. CES just happened. Take a look at all these companies that are really putting out robots and what we'll see with the Tesla robot. And yes, they're all going to be used for manufacturing, but we're already seeing robotics in our communities. Nightscope is a good example. They've got the Nightscope robot. It goes out there in the community. And it's got all kinds of sensors on it. You put any sensors on it, and it can go out in the community and do what quote unquote security guards do today. Whether that makes people feel safe or not, I think that's a broader discussion. I think there's some things we can do there. But we're going to a world where we have, believe it or not, individual responsibility. I know, scary. Individual responsibility is scary. But we've got to go there because when you call 911 in Los Angeles on a Friday night, how long are you waiting for the police, depending on what the call is, right? They are backed up 10 deep. They're holding folks over. They're bringing in people early, overtime, burnout, smaller academy classes, less resources. LA County sheriffs love those guys, but they're out there doing the job with cars and vehicles and equipment that's decades old. I watched a pursuit the other night, LAPD. There was a Crown Victoria in the pursuit. And I know it was the first car because they're like, if you wreck this, we can get a new car.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go ahead and pit this car. But they're doing stuff with ancient equipment. And so for me, the future of security starts with personal responsibility and technology. And we all really have to get comfortable with this.
Yeah.
Scary.
It is, yeah. Because there's less human touch. And to some extent, remember in COVID, people were like, can't go to the office, so we have to do something. And can't go to church, got to do something. And so Zoom was the big thing. And Zoom was a horrible application at the time. It's way better now. And so everybody was, okay, go to Zoom church. And look, if grandma could figure out how to go to Zoom church, we'll figure out in the next 5 years how to, okay, we have less people. What's normal? You take like the UK, for example, they've got cameras on every corner.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's going to be the new normal in the United States, but to some extent we're going in that direction where we're having to rely on technology, like flock cameras. Everybody's up in arms. Oh, you're taking pictures of people. Yeah, you're in public. You have no expectation of privacy.
Yeah.
It is scary, but I think people will adapt.
Yeah, they're forced to now.
They have to.
Yeah, they have to. Before then, we don't need cameras. I'll call the police. That's not true anymore. Security's.
Everybody has a camera in their pocket to walk around with it.
Yeah. When I was talking to a guy the other day, and he says, Chris, you know that phone's going to go away soon, right? This is going to be all in the glasses.
So there's something to be said about wearables, and having worked at Facebook, I got to see the first Oculuses, and they would give us the Oculus to take home and stuff. And so I had kids that were teenagers, let them, what do you guys think? What do you think? And they're like, this is cool, but like, not yet. But it's getting to be so good. My dad asked me when he was alive, he goes, what's next? We got the phone, what's next? Wearables for sure. He's got wearables now. Glasses for sure. VR and augmented reality, AR, are big goals for people in tech. But I actually think we'll be eventually going to what Elon Musk is working on, which is implants.
Yeah.
You'll have Wi-Fi in your head. Or if you don't, you'll be the weird, what are you, like Amish? The technocrats will shun you.
Yes.
And so that's what's more scary to me, to your point, that we have the kind of the haves and have-nots, the renters and the owners right now, and that will only get worse. That will only get more diversive and divisive because whoever's in power, the great spaghetti monster in the sky, wants us divided. And technology is absolutely meant to do that. We talked about what we see on Twitter and X and even LinkedIn and things, and this churn of information that's out there is really, nobody is waiting, hey, let's take a pause, and is that information accurate? Nobody's waiting for that anymore. We're going right to the worst possible scenario. We were talking with Marlon about this in the Minneapolis ice shooting. The first person to put that out, that becomes the law. And that's not a good thing, especially when we talk about internal affairs and what Marlon has done and what he's promoting with his content, which is great. Let's talk about diversity. Let's talk about transparency and things like that. That's awesome. But we're in a world where first person to get something out on any platform is automatically believed. Now, the real thing that scares me the most, we used to call them deep fakes, but they're not deep and they're not fake anymore. Yeah. Like, it's real. And I joke around with my team as well, and I make pictures of them on AI and send it to them. And like, I had one guy driving a Cybertruck on Mars, and he was like, how did you do that? But AI is so good. This year, we will see it be unable, I think, speculating here, will be unable to detect whether it's real or AI. That's scary.
So when I was a kid, I don't know if you guys remember this. Remember they were saying, in the upcoming years, we're going to put a chip in your neck or a chip in your hand and 666 and all that.
Yep.
Are we close to that?
We might have.
Am I wrong? Do you remember?
It. I do.
Many years ago. I'm not forecasting the future here, but is that?
Yeah.
It is really scary. And I'm able to take my 30-year content, just say on a commercial property, and with my pro account, drop it in and say, analyze this.
Yes.
All my history, all my background into that folder, analyze this.
Yeah.
Amazing. What's your thoughts? Scott, you guys are brothers. What do you see on your side?
What's interesting, because one of the things that, and I think Scott's spot on about a lot of that stuff. There's really no disputing that. But the interesting piece is we're spending a lot of technology, which is interesting, on detection and all of these things that detect threats, which is great. I think those are absolutely 110% needed. However, there's very little discussion around the response piece, because we're always discussing, hey, we got to detect threats. We got to have metal detectors, and we got to have this, that, and the other. And we got to have AI overlays over security cameras that detect guns and all these great things. And it's great to have a robot that goes out there to do that.
Thank you.
But who's responding and engaging that individual that's walking into a school, church, mall, park, whatever? Who's actually engaging that person? because robots are not to the point where they're able to effectively disengage or disarm an armed subject. Yeah. So we're still reliant on people. And obviously with the great shortages in law enforcement, and I fully get what Scott says about Law Enforcement Zero, because I don't disagree, because I see it in real time, because I teach law enforcement right now, and I see these guys and gals that come in exhausted and being forced mandatory overtime and other things, and that doesn't make for a very lengthy career in some cases. It makes people rethink what they want to do. So what's the next layer? The next layer is security, but you have the same thing happening there. But I think the bigger issue there is, at least in law enforcement, they focus a lot. They do focus a lot on training. They have to make sure, because untrained people are a liability. Right. Security hasn't gotten there yet, because they do whatever's necessary to make sure people are licensed and make sure people have the bare minimum that the state requires. We see this all the time here in California, but they don't train people effectively to deal with. And I would also argue security has not modernized the way they train. Even right now, law enforcement is really in the throes of getting a lot of mental health crisis training. However, there are numerous agencies in California that have said, we're no longer responding to mental health crisis. That's not our role. I hear you, and part of me disagrees with you, and part of me agrees with you, because I can understand that mentality, but we have to evolve. Society has evolved, and in some cases, society has devolved.
Yes.
And we have to be flexible and meet threats, challenges where they are, not where we wanted them 20 years ago, because the threats have evolved. And the security industry is so far behind in terms of, because think about it, when law enforcement gets to a mental health crisis, it's usually because they're getting called by somebody from security who is ill-prepared. And a lot of times security does things to escalate situations, without a doubt.
That's right.
Because they have this preconceived notion, I want to be a cop someday, so I'm going to go do this because I saw this on an episode of Cops 10 years ago, when policing is not going in that direction. So these officers are not trained. So what's happening out there? So what's happening is people are seeing in real time, and there's a perception amongst the populace, and I see this too because of the training that we do. You have a whole population of civilians, of people who have never owned a firearm before, that are now, I'm going to get a firearm because I no longer feel safe. And that's just across the board. And now I'm going to get my concealed carry permit because now I am out and about, or I travel or whatever. So I want to be able to protect my family, because I can't rely on the police. I can't rely on security because they're all short-staffed. And to your point, response times are longer. So now people are coming out, and now you're going to have to rely on your citizenry, which brings us back to the roots of our country.
That's right.
If you really think about it, it's really full circle.
Yep.
It's interesting. Like I said, Scott's always spot on. Don't worry, on the ride home, I'll deflate your ego a little bit.
Okay. But I paid him to say that.
But, right, can't let it get too big. But I think there are some dynamics that are going on out there. And I think if we, I don't know if anybody necessarily has the power to change any of that, but I think we're, at least in my lane, where training's involved, I think, well, we continue to try to educate those who want to be educated as far as their personal safety or their security. And those who don't, that's a choice, right?
I think it's very healthy to take ownership, to have agency. Yeah. And I do see concealed weapon permits as that agency, that first of all, okay, I get it. In a modern society, the Second Amendment is a little bit more of a wonky discussion. You shouldn't have to have a permit, but okay. In Arizona, you don't have to have a permit because you're not a prohibited possessor, which I think we can all agree. Those folks should not have firearms. But yes, the interesting thing is now there's a push across more maybe liberal states that are, because they've lost constitutional battles, they have to allow it, and California being one of them. And so you have this wave of people going, oh, I want to take care of myself. Hopefully that's the right idea, that they don't want to be dirty Harry, and they are seeking out appropriate training that isn't just firearms based, but it's de-escalation based. And the things that you're doing with Milo is incredible. For people, stuff that we get in law enforcement and the military, when we're training with firearms, we're training as close to real world situations as possible. We're not just sitting there shooting at paper that doesn't shoot back. We're shooting simulation rounds and things like that. So to bring Milo into the conversation, I think is important too, to show this is what civilians, we have a group tomorrow that will be training a group of civilians, CCW holders, candidates that want to know, how do I protect myself in the right way? And I think that's the most important thing, because it's not just go shoot a paper.
Yeah. If I can interrupt you guys just for a second. Hope this doesn't sound ignorant, but we talked about the police that's a shortage.
Yeah.
We have firemen being police. You go talk to LA City Fire, you go talk to somebody else, they're going to these people with PTSD or the homeless, and the firemen are getting burnt out going, I'm going to this. I went to a station, the fast station, because I wanted to be a paramedic and I wanted to do this. But now I'm waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock responding to all these people that are homeless.
And I'm fighting them.
Now, that's going to take that away. Now you got the police being taken away. And we're not talking about small property crimes. No. A potential burglary, a disturbance, a domestic dispute, which the cops can't even do anymore anyhow. You can't even stop somebody that looks potentially like a crook without FIR in the card. And why'd you stop him? What color he was? What did you say? What was the conversation? Did you touch him? So that ruins that. So now you say, can I just say it? They need Milo. They need guys like you to say, we're going to take you through several different courses from home security to, I'll tell you what, would you like to go outside and feel safe? Yeah. You may have to go shopping one of these days, because if we don't do this, and when it comes to robots don't have the empathy, robots can't do that. So is it going to get to a point where robot goes, 1 to 10, put down your gun. 1 to 10, put down your gun. And then they kill you. And then everybody goes, okay, out of fear, if I do this, they're going to kill me.
And then who's responsible?
Yeah, I know that sounds far stretched,
but it's not really.
We have to have these conversations. That's healthy.
But with the citizens, just in general, going back to that for a second, it goes back to what you said earlier, which is those folks are taking personal responsibility for their own safety, because they are no longer reliant on the government or private entities to facilitate their either feelings of physical safety or psychological safety. And the reality is now they feel more empowered and in control. And I'm very not worried about somebody who goes and gets their concealed license, because as my partner Joel has put it, here in California, if you go through the full rectal exam that it takes to get a CCW here, we're not worried about you. Yeah. You are somebody who is responsible and really wants to, obviously, is concerned about your own personal safety or your family's safety. And that's really what it's for. It's not designed for people to go out and be security.
Not a license.
Or they're not licensed for any of that. They're not legally required to get involved in anything. Right. They're there to have that to defend themselves. And because I know there's a lot of all these people with guns, the person who went through a background check and all that other stuff, we're not worried about you. The person who has a ghost gun, or you're the person who is carrying a concealed weapon without a permit and you just don't care, that's a whole nother story.
I love your course, and you guys have that background. And what scares me in the future, if you don't pass it on, who's going to be educated?
Right.
Because you guys understand people. You understand that is the foundation of the home. Right. And now it's easy to go where we're going now. That's a piece of cake. We played in a sandbox. We played Hot Wheels. We got in a fight. We knew how to make friends again.
Played outdoors.
Brotherhood.
We
played
outdoors. From a hose.
We know all that stuff. But I guess where I'm going, as a business guy, what do you think about a cool approach for the corporate to say, listen, if you're going to be responsible, you're going to go out and do the rules so you can go by the rules. Crooks don't do that, okay? So you're going to do that. So let's do this. Come in and take the course, not just to take the course, not just to protect yourself and learn how to do the correct things, but we want to put you in a position to where you make the right decision. Nobody digs in your wallet. Judy comes in, Larry Parker, and you don't find yourself jumping off a cliff because you thought you did the right thing. Mistake of the heart versus mistake of the mind. Your intentions were good, but at this point, do you trust anybody anymore? Who's sitting on the stand now, right?
100%.
They don't understand empathy. And I would say also to a lot of people, in this course where you show them what do you call it? The
fire. So
where it's tens up the muscle.
It's similar to a TENS unit. It's a great company called AU Fire. Okay. Shout out to Tim and Jim at AU Fire. This is a device that simulates potentially being injured in a gun battle. Right. And that's a reality in law enforcement, security. But even now, I think it's even important for folks who are concealed carry holders, because if you, God forbid, have to use your firearm to protect yourself, there may be an instance where you may get hurt. And if you don't train in a way that allows you to recover from that, you're not going to see your kids graduate from college. You're not going to do all these things. Learning some of these sort of survival skills in real time helps people understand that the bad thing can happen, but at least mentally you're prepared for it. But I think the bigger takeaway with some of the training that we focus on is we focus on avoidance. For our civilian populace, the best gunfight you're ever going to be in is the one you avoid, because you don't want to be involved in any of those things. You don't want to deal with the aftermath of what's going to happen, whether it's legally or psychologically. Because we get a lot of folks that come through the class, they're not even thinking about the aftermath of an actual shooting like we do in law enforcement. Are there those psychological aspects? I said you may experience, it just depends on the circumstances. Not everybody who goes through a traumatic incident has PTS, but you may experience PTS symptomology. And what do you need to do? And most gun owners are like, where'd that come from? I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah.
That's not even anywhere remotely in their universe or radar. And when you bring it to them, it makes sense to them when you explain it, but nobody's thinking about that. Nobody's thinking about, hey, your average citizen who's carrying a concealed firearm, hey, I'm just out running errands today. They're not really thinking about, what if I am involved in a deadly force encounter? And the only way to experience that is going through a course where you're forced to do decision making, and then having experts debrief you on what was appropriate, to your point, what was appropriate, what wasn't, and giving them the options to determine how to navigate those in the future, and they just leave better prepared.
Yeah, total confidence builder. That's 100%. What this whole thing's about.
Yeah.
Just a confidence builder. Everybody needs that. It's no more back in the day was take your wheel gun, go in the closet where it's dark, and try to load it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're trained.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
You're trained. Way different. I could never hurt anybody. I'm touching your 5-year-old daughter now. Oh, I'll kill him. What's the difference between your daughter and you, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all these things that nobody really thinks about.
Yeah,
so what you're really talking about is a group of experts, which is you guys. Mm-hmm. A training source, which is absolutely incredible now, right? Mm-hmm. Which is the Milo. It simulates being injured, right? But all in all, it's about really safety.
Yeah.
Really about educating and then just really building confidence. And then to have a group of people like-minded there with you to learn from, develop friendships, and the ongoing education that you guys are delivering to them too.
I think absolutely it's a confidence builder, but I would say towards the end. Because in the very beginning, it's a very humbling experience, because everybody, and I think this is just human nature, we come in with especially if we've gravitated towards firearms, law enforcement, security, we have that kind of, oh, I got this, right? And then you put them through a drill, and they're trying to draw, and their gun gets hung up in their shirt, or they're unable to get it out in time, and the bad guy overruns them. The frequent response we get is, I didn't realize how fast things can unfold in real time. And I go, this is the point of why we do this, because you watch TV or you're not getting the same experience from Call of Duty as you would from this platform.
That's actually super important.
Right? So this isn't a video game. This is real life, and we're training you for real situations, not the abstract kind of thing. Now, obviously, our partners at Milo, and I want to give them a shout out to Amanda and John and the rest of the team at Milo. We have thousands of scenarios that we can play, and obviously we do have fun sometimes. We have a zombie apocalypse thing where it's just zombies, and it's fun, but those are the team building, skill builder type of stuff. But the scenarios are realistic enough to where people really get sucked into them. And sometimes people will go through and for whatever reason, they didn't catch a threat signal, and then they end up getting killed, and I'll use that in parentheses. And a lot of times I see that I gave up, right? That, oh, they got me. And I'm like, you got to switch your mindset. You got to continue to fight through. I said, because you're only dead if you say you're dead. Mm-hmm. In this scenario, right? Yeah. But if you continue to fight, we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to tell you up front, here's some of the things that you missed. This is situational awareness now, paying attention to your surroundings. You missed a few cues. In the future, you're probably not going to miss that, because now you just learned a very valuable lesson that, I wasn't paying attention, and now I have to pay attention.
Vision InSites is the simplest, most powerful security guard management software. No long training, no complicated systems. Guards can start reporting in minutes. Train your teams with micro trainings, attaching video to individual checkpoints to walk them through sensitive procedures. Submit accurate reports every time with dynamic observations that automatically rewrite, categorize, and prioritize, removing human error. And grow your business with daily, monthly, and quarterly insights the most advanced reports available today. Vision InSites, the simplest, most powerful way to report.
Let me ask you, do they, or what do you think of the concept, maybe you guys do this already, a basic criminal law class? Laws of where you're at, what city, when people respond, the types of crimes. What about a pre-law class before are you guys doing anything with something?
So the concealed carry course that our partners at Practical Defense Systems, Joel, shout out to you, that they do, a lot of the CCW classes, they do have a law component. But we reinforce that when they come into decision making, because the first thing I always ask them is, are you legally required to intervene here? And the answer is universally no every single time, because as a concealed carry holder, you don't really have any authority per se, because you're still a citizen. Yeah, you have citizens arrest authority and all that other stuff. But the reality is that you are not legally required to intervene in any type of situation, whether it's a robbery, burglary, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. So we start to tell people that, yes, you should have liability insurance and all that stuff, because you never know if you're going to be involved in a confrontation or something along those lines. But we really lean into, you're not required to get involved. So sometimes your best engagement is disengagement. Get out of there. Be a good witness. Don't get involved if you absolutely don't have to. Now, obviously, if your life is in danger, specifically your life, then handle business. But we teach strategic disengagement. We teach situational awareness. Situational awareness is important because that will let you prevent getting into a situation. And hopefully you detect it early enough to where you can strategically disengage before you're too far into it.
Scott, how is your training course, your school doing right now? I know you guys are just getting started, and we talked about that, right? Because you're with the Milo. How are you guys doing with it?
It's getting a lot of attention because now the word's starting to get out and flesh out, and it's how it is when you first get started. Sometimes it's fits and starts, and that's being just fully transparent. But I think that is also part and parcel of people just don't know sometimes if you haven't pumped up the marketing volume, and I'm guilty of that for sure. But it's slowly starting to get, and I think 2026 we're going to grab a big gear, and it's going to get shoved violently forward, which is a good thing in a lot of different ways. But I think the key there, and I think you would agree with this, and I know you would agree with this, is consistency. Consistency is key in anything. So just continuing to lean into opportunities, lean into folks who express an interest, even if it's just a cursory interest. Hey, I'd like to learn more about that. I don't know if I would, become a full-time member or a program or whatever, but maybe I'd like to take a class. It's like one of those things. And what we've been also doing is giving people the opportunity to try before they buy. Come down for an hour, and I'll run you through a few things, and you can see the value on your own.
Yeah, I think that's great. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. People worrying about, like I said, I've been watching SEAL Team 6. I didn't get anything out of it.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Scott, could you, my background was security. Can you tell me or tell us, how can we get security involved? Where's security going to, where do you think security? We talked about robotic step. What's the next step of security, real quick?
But I think we are seeing an evolution in the executive protection realm. People who can afford that human touch are going to pay for it, right? People who want a high-level security person, which we generally call executive protection, they're going to want that at their house, right? And those who can afford it will have that. And I think we're going to see the scale and scope of executive protection just explode. And for the listeners, if they don't know what that is, generally executive protection practitioners are a contracted security resource that have more extensive security experience, close protection experience, what some may call bodyguard experience, or tactical driving, tactical medicine experience, as well as home safety security, travel safety and security. They know how to protect you in your office. They know how to protect you when you're flying to New York, stuff like that I think our observe and report security guards they're not equipped for. And your physical security apparatus, like a camera or a badge reader or something, or a door lock, obviously it's different than that. A lot of executive protection is a contracted security resource, and they have to be licensed as such. or you could have your own employees be what we call executive protection specialists, things like that. And so I think where we're starting to see the human elements of security evolve is into, hey, we need people that are thinkers, that can respond and mitigate, not just observe and report, that can handle high-touch customer interactions. And I use that term customer because I really mean it. If you're on a corporate campus and a security person is responding to whatever, they're going to want somebody who will de-escalate or treat somebody with kindness. And I have the example that I use is I had a really great security supervisor who went on to be a law enforcement officer in the Bay Area. He responded to a disheveled-looking person trying to get into one of our buildings. Turns out that she was this amazing programmer. And she was just she forgot a badge. She's trying to get in. She had this brilliant idea at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she wanted to get in to code it or do whatever the coders do, programmers do. Well, he treated her with respect, didn't treat her like a homeless person, which he could have. She was absolutely the rudest she could be to him. But we have great cameras. We captured everything. He brought her inside. Let me look you up in the employee system, and if I find that picture, I'll get you your badge and get you on your way. And he did. Found her, got her on her way. Oh, she was eccentric, but he was high touch. He gave her a white glove treatment. And even though we got a complaint against it, and I said, hey, what happened? He tells me the story, and I'm like, awesome, sounds like you did a great job. Pulled up the cameras, and it showed exactly him doing that and doing a great job. So these high-touch experiences people want, but I think they'll pay for them, right? Because they're not getting the high-touch, hey, I called 911 because I had a vehicle break-in, and the police came within 15 minutes. That's what they expect. That's not what's happening.
No.
Our law enforcement partners are more focused on higher impact issues, whether that be, and that could be anything from directed traffic enforcement to a SWAT call out, right, for a hostage barricade. So they're focused on doing things that are law enforcement-y. They're not worried about the security at your home or office or when you're traveling as much as they are with making sure that active shooter isn't going to continue shooting.
Yeah.
So I think the ultimate evolution of human-based security will be these executive protection professionals, and this is what's great, like when we talk about Milo and different training, we've been talking about CCW holders, but even security people go through your classes and are seeking other training. Yeah. But here's to get to the kind of the root of what your question is. This is going to be really hard to, let me back that down. I don't think it'll be really hard to convince business owners that they need to have better training. I think it's going to be difficult when you have a business owner that has a security organization to say, okay, where's the cost benefit analysis and where's my ROI on having a more highly trained security person? We said it earlier, you're going to have better retention. Your customers are going to be more appreciative. You're going to have a better product, right? If we compare this in a bad comparison to the automotive industry, best automobiles in the world are Toyotas. I'm not saying that because I like Toyota. It is literally fact.
Yeah.
They sell the most vehicles, right? They have the best ownership reviews and so on. Same thing with Honda. So if you want to run an organization that is the Hondas and the Toyotas and the Lexuses of the world, cool, good on you. But it's going to cost your customer more. And this is why I say people who can afford it will afford it. People who can't afford it will suffer, unfortunately. And that's where this sheepdog mentality has to come back. We got to bring the villagers back to the castle, and they've got to protect themselves. They've got to learn how to be firefighters, EMTs, and police officers. I'm sorry if people don't like it that way. That's the world we're going to. It will specifically affect the rural areas because nobody wants to, unfortunately, these are great, very needed jobs in the world. Nobody wants to be a farmer or a rancher. They're moving off the farm, off the ranch, and into the city. This newest generation is, I want to be where the technology is. I want to have internet constantly. I don't want to live on a farm where I have one bar on my cell phone. And they don't see the value in it. And I'm not blaming these newer generations or even older generations. I just think this is the way humans are evolving. They want to be in certain specific areas where the barriers to movement have been reduced so greatly, mainly because of government subsidies. Education, for example, was a huge barrier when we were coming up. What did you do? If you couldn't afford to go to college, what did you do? You joined the military. Military would pay for me to go to college. Thank you, GI Bill. They paid for us to get master's degrees. So that used to be a barrier to movement, to progress in your own, what you wanted to achieve. The good thing is we've got lots of really good examples of billionaires who didn't go to college. Mark Zuckerberg's one of them. While I say that, there are barriers. The barriers are slowly being removed. Our ability to communicate with each other is where it's never been before. And so my hope as people are moving into more metropolitan areas, my hope is that some people move to those rural places because they don't want what comes with metropolitan. Yep. What comes with metropolitan, besides having a great nightlife and the best restaurants, because they're going to go where there's money, and the money is there. And what comes with that is the criminal aspects, and we know that. And so I think a lot of people are going to start streaming out into suburbs and the more rural areas because the barriers to living there is gone too. Thank you, Elon Musk and SpaceX. I can have internet. I can do a job that pays me 6 figures a year from the middle of nowhere, Kansas. I can be a trader. I can see what the stock market's doing. So business is now unburdened by distance, which it never, that was always a problem before.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And so I don't think we've even realized what that's going to really impact in society.
Going back to what you were saying about P and like security, that individual is going to have to evolve.
That's right. That's right.
And they're going to be doing a bunch of different things. And I think at that point, the term executive protection becomes a misnomer.
I totally
because
agree.
It's not going to be relegated to just executives. It may be just a family who says, I have the means, so I'm going to hire. And we've used this term before, and this is not a new term, but protective service officer. Yeah. That person is going to embody the aspects of executive protection, the kind of the basic core elements, but also some of the elements of more maybe modern LE or fire. Like
fire
I'm a medic.
EMS. Yep.
I understand crisis intervention and mental health, so I know what's going on with the family. Maybe the kids are in mental health crisis, or maybe they have developmental disabilities that I got to be aware of. There's a lot of unique things that aren't being addressed in the industry as a whole right now.
I think it's this is the kind of
but
the cool
it should
thing.
Be because
it has to be.
It has to be because typically when law enforcement right now, they get a call for service involving somebody's in mental health crisis in a strip mall. It's usually the security officer that's there is reporting it. But a lot of times, because they don't know how to manage that situation,
or to
that
provide
is tying
resources.
That's tying up law enforcement resources from going and doing other things, versus if that security officer, as a portion of the first responder group, some people don't like me saying that, and I'll get hate mail for it.
I think they're the first responders.
I would say they're the initial responder.
Yeah, initial responder, yeah.
Because they're the ones on scene immediately who's dealing with the store owner who is saying, I want this homeless person off my property. And it's, first of all, being homeless is not a crime. Number one. And yeah, they may be engaged in some level of crime like trespassing or something like that. And we talked about this last time, which is, how about we try to solve the problem first? You're not giving the security officers resources to go, there's all these different things like LA HOP, the Homeless Outreach Portal, to report these things, or some of the other homeless resources where you could call them and say, okay, maybe we could figure out how we solve this problem permanently. Like getting this person housed or getting them into treatment or other things. We're not thinking of that. We're just going down this enforcement path, which clearly has not worked in a lot of ways.
Until recently, that was the only thing that, how many cops do we know that when you talk to a security guard, you'd say, hey, just call 911. You talk to citizens, hey, just call 911. That can't be the answer anymore.
It can't be because we don't have enough.
It's no different in law enforcement before. They get so busy, they go, we're not going to handle the 594, the 459 reports. We're going to let a civilian go out there and take the reports. We don't have time to write. My NDD's full. 459 silent? You kidding? No way. And by the way, if your alarm keeps going off, we're going to come in.
Charge you.
And we're going to charge you for the response. So the same thing has to happen. What happens to happen, you say, listen, mayor should go in. Business owners, I'll chip in if we need to, whatever we need to do, but we need a personal protection, somebody that can talk to that homeless person, can provide first aid and a Band-Aid where you don't have to call 911 services, right? Yeah. And start evaluating that stuff. We've got the analytics now. We got AI. We got all the stuff to determine, hey, what does our city look like? It's where it goes in the first place.
Yeah.
Chief of police speak honest about his calls for service and what his team is doing to get the support. And then start forcing people. Because if I owned a homeowner association today, I would be the round robin board president and say, hey, let's all cuff up a couple bucks and let's get our own guy, EP guy. That guy's former military.
That's right.
He's a former paramedic, military, the whole bit. Let's put him in the car, pay him, and let him be our police.
Yeah.
And then once a week, he can provide training, come to the community center, and we'll do the Milo training. We can do, you see what I mean?
100%.
It is coming.
It is.
What's cool about that concept, too, you said military veteran, and I'll even say put law enforcement veteran as well, because we've talked about this in Security Zero, or Law Enforcement Zero, where we've got a generation of law enforcement officers. And I go back to the war on drugs, hired all these law enforcement officers or all these grants from DOJ, and bring more cops. 9/11 happens. Oh, war on terror. More cops. Fellas, that was 25 years ago. What's the average retirement age of most of these folks? They're retiring. And what better person to retire and become that community responder as somebody who comes out of military and law enforcement or even public safety to say, look, I've got all this great training, and the little lady down the street, hey, how can I keep my house safe? I got a lock on the door and that's it. And we have a generation of people that are aging rapidly. I'm really concerned about our seniors and fraud. That's a whole other thing, but they're a vulnerable population. And we have the older baby boom generation that are getting to be that age where they can't protect themselves. And so we talk about in-home health care, and that's important. And thank God for people who do that, not for people who defraud that, Minnesota, but thank God for the people that are doing that honestly and helping that generation transition into different phase of life. But we also need to be mindful, because we're sheepdogs here. Also need to be mindful that they could be taken advantage of in their own homes or in their own residences. And how do we keep them safe there? When our law enforcement partners they're going to the TCs, they're going to the mental health calls, they're doing all this other stuff. They're not focusing on being what we grew up on was officer friendly. How many times you drive down the street in law enforcement and wave at people? I know in California, you guys get the one finger wave back. In Arizona, we wave with all five fingers.
We've also lost the gift of gab.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
The old school community
the
policing model where you're able to just talk to people.
One positive contact a day is 30 a month and so on. The broken window theory, all that. Hey, this day and age, you don't know if the neighbor's kid next door is a nutball. Look what happened to the actor. His kid come and kill his parents. You don't even know who's balanced.
That's right.
100%. They don't even parent anymore. And we have technology that doesn't make them human anymore. They don't know how to respond.
Technology is doing the parenting.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
scary.
And the crimes now? I mean, are you kidding? And by the way, the crimes are not only worse, but your hands are tied. You can't even pull somebody over without their gun. Here's my ID. I'm not rolling to him. My attorney under Constitution, blah, blah, blah. Are you kidding?
No personal responsibility.
No, none.
The challenge with those folks is that they're so quick to escalate, too.
Yeah.
Because they believe, and we've talked about the delusions and schizophrenia, and you can't tell them that they're wrong because their belief is that I have this constitutional right to do whatever. But you still need to do your job in law enforcement. I think that's a real threat that a lot of people in society don't understand. And with whatever their reason for doing these things, we also in law enforcement escalate things pretty quickly. If you don't show me your ID, I'm taking you to jail. Or your partner who's a hostage negotiator. You okay? Hey, I'm so-and-so from the sheriff's department. Are you okay?
Yeah.
You're going to get an answer. It'll take you 2 ways or 3 ways. So I think we also need to understand that in my talk on Law Enforcement Zero, I do give law enforcement a hard time because we talk about things like we eat our own, we push good people out, there's nepotism. These are not stuff that I made up. This is everything that we've all experienced. and then have people in our profession, we have to be honest here, abused their right and their privilege. Yeah. Of course. Of course. And we have to acknowledge that. I love talking to Marlon about that, IA guy, when we talk about the value of internal affairs and checking our own and checking each other. And I think there's a broader discussion there I don't know we want to get into, but society has lost their trust. It's law enforcement's job to earn that trust back. You got to come from that place of, we screwed things up pretty good for the last 20 years. Additionally, we've been at war for 20 years, and then we back out of Afghanistan in a horrible way. No one sees a win. Billions and trillions of dollars spent on things like that. Billions and trillions of dollars spent on the global war on drugs. We put people in jail in the 80s and 90s for possession of marijuana. They're still in jail. And I got it. We evolve over time. We've evolved to say, is marijuana that bad? Let's figure it out. And the president's helping with some of these things.
Is this going to be like the DARE program? The DARE program was, you go back, it was like, we weren't planning on having kids stop drugs. What we're hoping to do is teach the kids in school not to do drugs, then their kids not do drugs. We're changing generations. We weren't expecting to make an impact on the current one. Are we going there? Is it going to take a generation? Because I have, as you can see, that's why I'm trying to do what I do with the security people. I'm trying to let these guys, you guys, it's going to EP, or it's going to, you have to do this, okay? And I'll tell you right now, I have more respect for EP in the past 2 years. Myself, I go, where was I thinking? Executive protection. But when I was a cop and I came out and got a security company, everybody looked at me like, LA County, you know everything. And I go back on the EP level, I go, I don't know a damn thing. I could talk to a gang member, I could go to a crime scene, I could do that. But as far as driving, protecting somebody's car, it's a whole white-collar crime. Who would have thought that? Oh, I got to be careful of my kid walking home now. I wouldn't let my kid walk home. Would you?
No way.
In fact, when I move into a neighborhood, if the fences are 20 feet high and I'm maybe at the end of a cul-de-sac and there's a river in there, maybe I'll let my kid play in the backyard. Maybe. But it's scary.
And I think not all skills translate, right? Just because you're doing one thing doesn't mean you're able to do, and we've seen this in the private sector, you get a lot of people out of these famous 3-letter agencies.
Oh boy. Don't get me started.
Secret Service.
Don't let off with Secret Service.
Secret Service, DEA, all the 3 letters, right? And then what do? I'm an ASAC and I transition out. And now I'm the director of Meta. Director of security at Meta, and I'm just using that as a dig at you. But my point is that they try to run things the same way they did when they were at the Bureau or Secret Service.
Not cut and paste.
And you have to know your audience.
People.
And it's people, and you can't, government employees are one thing, but when you're interacting with the lady who shows up at 3 o'clock, the coder that shows up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't sit here and interrogate her like you would your average gang member or criminal. And that's where the translation gets lost, because we've seen plenty of ASACs who have very distinguished resumes and probably very good people, but they burn out and they get blown out because they're not looking at the bigger picture. They're like, oh, okay, I did this here, so that translates automatically to this.
And what I say is, would it translate the other way? If you had somebody who'd been in security for 25 years, can they become the chief of police? And everybody in law enforcement says, heck no. They can't do that. Then why do you think you can be the head of security?
Maybe in Arkansas up in the hilltop with population of 3.
Right.
100%.
Every law enforcement officer thinks that what security does, whether it's corporate or EP or whatever, they think, oh, that's easy.
But the thing that kills me the most is the way law enforcement in general has perceived security, just in general.
Thank you.
Because you get a call for service and you roll up to the security guard and you're just like, however, you retire, and now all of a sudden, where do all of these law enforcement folks end up? They end up in the security industry.
That's
an industry that they have maligned for decades, but yet it is fine for after. So I think it's also, look, we're all on the same team. Security guards have a difficult job because you're giving them and putting them in places in front of banks and stores, and you're saying, go do, and they're only allowed to observe and report. What do you want them to do? But then you can't give them guff because, well, you're not providing a useful service because you're just, okay, that's a state issue. That's not that guy or gal's issue.
Yeah.
So I think we need to understand that sometimes building, to your point, building that rapport and being collaborative as a partner in the field, because they can be good for information and letting you know what's going on in it, right?
Exactly.
Like, instead of looking at them as useless, you look at them as a partner that can provide you information and or intelligence.
So when I was on the streets, what I did with those security officers, okay, and what's interesting, I'm glad I did, I treat him just like anybody else, an informant on the street. I don't care if he's got $10,000 with search warrants. County didn't give a shit. The idea is he was a resource. I got cooperation from him, and anytime I got respect. It's simple, okay? Yeah. Same thing with if you just take the time with the security personnel and just pull them off the side, educate them, teach them. Sometimes I give them my number and say, listen, when you get this, here's the things to look for. Give me a call on this. If you have any questions, let me know. Don't drive me crazy. But I could develop a relationship when the guy would know. And you know what? I developed a lot of respect where the kid wasn't getting himself in trouble for me to come in to get him out of trouble.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
So, again, what's that? Community-based policing, working with your community. So I think that's just out the window. But I am super excited about working with you guys continually here and having these conversations, because what I'd really like to do is I want to educate the security industry and start directing them towards the Milo program, educated learning through you guys to start. It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming, you guys. Right? Am I wrong? It's coming.
Okay. And there's a big focus previously on all the hard skills. Let's run and gun and stop the bleed and all those things. But look, there's a reason to do that, right?
Yeah. That's important.
It's important. But what we haven't seen, and what I love about Milo, is that you can focus on those soft skills, which is the communication. How do I communicate not only with a subject, but with my partners? How do I keep us safe in any encounter?
Yeah.
And not every encounter in Milo, which I love, is a shoot, don't shoot scenario. Sometimes it's just talk to somebody. You know how to do that. And how many times we did an EP course for an entertainment company here in LA area recently. And it's funny, when the scenarios start, everybody's just standing there and they're just watching the scenario play out. Dude, you're in the scenario. You're supposed to be engaging, because Dave can change the scenario based on how they are interacting. And it's funny to see how many people just want to be I just want to be a passenger on this. Let's just see how it goes. And it's not, you're supposed to be engaging here. Use your verbal judo, to use our term from law enforcement.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
I taught that, the verbal judo. Yeah. And I was amazed how many people, because I did it for the cities and colleges and universities, because when I was doing the parking program, we were teaching them how to stay safe when they're writing their citations, immobilizing cars in L.A., in the jungle. Yeah. How do you talk to somebody who grabs you behind the collar and says, hey, take that boot off, right? But it was amazing, and what was really amazing, there was one scenario, the guy goes, what if you go in there and you run your mouth off, and then the guy's ready to kick your butt, and you got a bunch of people around you, a bunch of girls and people, and they're staring at you, and as a man, it's hard to walk away. And then I just blow up, and that's how I got myself in the situation. And I said, you have a mic, right, on your collar? He says, yeah. I said, you think of this one? Ready? This one thing. You walk away thinking, I'm sorry, I got a more important call. I'll have to get back to you. And you go to your car and you drive off. Okay? Guy goes, whoa, that's amazing. Right?
Yeah. Options.
Options. I go, that's just a very simple option. I go, were you embarrassed by it? No. What do the girls think? Oh, he's got a hot call to go. Changes everything. You're not running, right? But what did you save yourself? Oh, save what kind? You guys get it, right? But I really want to, where I'm going is really like to educate the security industry with you guys, work with you, continue this education so we can get them. They got to start thinking that direction.
That's right.
Robots are one, but if you need to start thinking more EP, because it's going to go that direction.
Yeah, without
well,
a doubt.
we need people that can evolve even in EP. It used to be you got to be 6 foot tall and really buff and be able to push people out of the way. Yeah, we definitely would not be there. But the skill set's broadened so much to the technology piece. How comfortable are you with technology?
Yeah.
Can you take the client's security system and make sure that it's all working the way it's supposed to be? Can you find weaknesses in the security system that maybe a bad guy could exploit? And by the way, we've got a generation coming up, the millennials, very comfortable with technology. And they're looking for those techno jobs. So if you are pitching jobs that are like, hey, stand here and watch this door. Like, how many millennials are you going to get? 0.
Yep.
You're not going to get on one of them that are going to want to do that.
Or can you use technology to do an advance in using those things AI and all that other stuff that allows you to do a digital advance of a place, being able to translate that into, okay, I can actually physically see the environment. There's a lot of
no longer can we operate, because even when you're doing EP, you may have your little team and you're doing your thing, but the client goes to some place where there's other security folks, other law enforcement there. You introduce yourself, hey, we're protecting these folks, and we're doing our thing. And how can you communicate with them? We've got this great piece of technology in our pocket that we can communicate with them. So if you don't understand how to communicate with that, like this phone is perplexing to me, how do I use it to text somebody? You might want to learn that.
Or if you still have an antique like a flip phone.
Yeah, real. Yeah,
that's on the real, because some old school folks still have some flip phones out there.
Because you're not going, as an EP folks, you're not going to, you probably have your own comms with your own team. Everybody's on an ear loop, right? But when you get into the environment where now you're like, I got to communicate with all these other people, you're going to fall back on text.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you know how these things work. Hopefully you can develop these skills, the OSINT and things like that. Yeah. But I think the technology piece, a lot of people are just resistant to it. And I get it. It's a risk, because in the EP world, we have to be lucky all the time. The bad guy's got to be lucky once, right? And so their technology is a weakness, and it could be a vulnerability, because what are you seeing? Who are you communicating with? We see this in business email compromise, which is a tactic that fraudsters will use, where they'll pretend to be somebody of importance in a business, email somebody who is a doer in a business and say, hey, I'm out with the board of directors trying to buy them dinner. My card's not working. Can you fill up a green dot card and send it to me? All of us know that, hey, why in the world does the CEO need a green dot card, right? And so that's business email compromise that even EP folks need to be aware of. Yeah. Because if I can't get to the executive, or I can't get to the protectee, I'll say, not to use the executive term, if I can't get to the protectee, who's around the protectee? Who are the assistants? Who's the gardener? Who's the driver? Who's the whatever? I'll find them, try and hack their system, right? So the EP professional of yesterday was, I know how to drive, I know how to shoot, which that doesn't help you when you go to another country, does it? I know how to do advances, and I could be on the ground, I could talk to people, and I can go make things happen. Cool story, bro. But when somebody's trying to hack your cell phone, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Do you know? First of all, are you aware of all the fraud types that are out there that they can take over your devices or try and to elicit incorrect information? How about this? We talked about deep fakes, which really aren't that deep anymore. This AI-generated content. I'm going to pretend to be Chris. I'm going to call my EP guy and say, hey, take the day off. I don't need you today. Oh, okay, thanks, boss. See you. Assassinated.
Whoa. Scott.
No, the boss called me.
Yeah?
That wasn't his phone number, but he called me.
Right? Hey, Jen.
Yeah.
Voice record, right?
I got a new number. Sorry, I didn't let you know. I'm just letting you know this is my new number, and by the way.
So fake audio, fake video, all of these things are playing a part now. It is incumbent on the bad guy to have that creativity to go, you know what, I'm going to use it this way today. And the bad guy doesn't have to be advanced in his or her knowledge of how to do things either. They have forums just like we do, where they're discussing how to do all these things very easily. They don't have to be coders or in their mom's basement with a hoodie and their computer, and they've got little mouse ears. They don't have to be that guy anymore.
Yeah.
They can be. It's very easy to buy off-the-shelf hacks.
There's a platform called Synthesia, where you can make your own AI avatar that looks and sounds exactly like you.
Yep. 100%.
Now, while I would argue that a platform like that does have some controls in place, like there's certain things that they won't do with your avatar.
Yeah. The fact is the technology exists.
But it exists, and it could be, sometimes we invent things or develop things and a lot of it is always good intentions, right? But as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
That's right.
Yeah.
And people will always find a way to exploit a good piece of technology or opportunity or other things for nefarious purposes.
Well, I think, and it isn't even that. I think of that as very black and white too. We saw with the Charlie Kirk assassination, tragic event, how much conspiracy theories were popping up from quote unquote experts that were on YouTube and talking about these things. And then in my community, I start fielding these like, hey, and I was on a YouTube show a friend of ours, Al Bora, has with a friend of his, and we talked about it and tried to slow down some of these conspiracy theories. Oh, they were all Israeli EP guys. They wanted to get him. Do you even know who any of those guys are? Oh, they all checked their watch at the same time. Yeah, because they all had iWatches, and what do we do when we communicate on EP? We text each other. Hey, there's a guy in a white hat. Watch that guy in the corner. Yep. Hey, we're getting ready to move to the next location. Here's what we're going to do. Yep. Everybody's, okay.
Got it.
Got it. Hey, there's a picture of a person of interest. Okay, got it. That's why they were looking at their phones. Oh, was he wearing a vest when he was shot? Because we have 4K, different angles, stuff that we never, ever had before. And we have all this great information, and we still have people going, the microphone exploded. Yeah, his EP guys must have killed him in the car when they were driving to the hospital, which I don't recommend, but the driving to the hospital thing.
Part of the problem, though, is that social media allows anyone, any person, it doesn't matter, to post anything they'd like. And it doesn't matter whether it's verified or not. And you have nefarious actors that will purposely post fodder for people to jump on in order to do that. And there's really no way to prevent that, because the minute you try to, you're certainly censoring people, and that's not what you want to do. But I always encourage people, like, every time I look at social media, I don't believe the first reports that come out, and I look for concurrent verification across different platforms and different mediums.
Credibility.
But that's me, because I want to understand what really happened there. Your average person, they just look at their Facebook feed and they go, "Oh, wow, those guys did a bad thing," and that's their narrative, and you can't change their opinion there.
Nope. Especially when that happened. How many people called you, your family or friends, said, "Did you hear what happened to Disney?" And then you have to go, wait a minute. Yeah, that's not. What do you mean? I saw it. Didn't you see it?
I saw it on the news.
Yeah, I saw it on the news. And then you try to educate them, and they go, "That's because you're okay. Why are we going here?"
I saw it in 4K. I saw it in 4K.
Yeah, in 4K.
I saw the same thing you did. However, my training experience and life experience also tells me that I'm going to go ahead and wait for more information. Yeah. I'm not going to rush to snap judgments.
Yeah, and I think that's the narrative, especially those of us in the security industry and former law enforcement folks. We need to continue to push the narrative, which is maybe, but let's wait and see. Let's wait for more information. You saw it in 4K. There's always another angle.
You weren't there, and the clip that they're showing on the news or whatever is the 10 seconds of the worst possible part or angle of whatever. And in a digitally connected world where we have nothing but Ring cameras and all of these different things, how about you not rush to judgment and wait to see what actually occurred and get the full story before you make a judgment? Because sometimes things are captured at a bad angle, and that's not in defense or for anything. It's just the point of, we are just rushing to judgment through every one of these type of incidents, and you're not giving the opportunity for the whole thing to. It's like judge, jury, executioner.
That's right.
Within a Twitter, or I'm sorry, an X. An X post.
Yeah, but and this is, I think, the things that are going to impact people's desire to move into these paid roles.
Yeah.
Whether it's law enforcement or security, public safety, doesn't matter. When they see the security team from Charlie Kirk get excoriated by veterans who are YouTubers, like, you're not helping anybody, guys.
No, you're not.
No. You're out there expressing, I could take the shot from 1,000 yards and hit him in the... there's so many variables you don't understand. And I call it the body cam effect, because I think it affects law enforcement more, or it impacts law enforcement more than it does the security industry. But the security industry has its own challenges. But the body cam effect is... how did we all get into law enforcement? We had somebody who we knew in law enforcement, wanted to emulate them. We got excited about the fun things in the job. We didn't see the horrific things. For example, after a shooting, the officer on the body cam breaks down and starts crying. That's horrific for them. Everybody thinks that I dumped the bad guy, I did the right thing. That's not how it is. For most people. Thank God I've never been in that situation, but I've seen it. I'm empathetic. And by the way, all these future generations are watching it in live and unfiltered. Before, when we just relied on media, we relied on the news, and the news blurred it out, or they didn't show it. They just talked about it. They had their expert come on, who was a retired FBI agent, who talks about policing for some reason, right? So we didn't grow up in a very graphic reality that we now have, that everybody can put in their face. There's no age restrictions in the United States.
Yeah.
Zero.
It really beats the shit out of the telephone game, doesn't it?
That's right.
Sure changes it.
Yeah.
Sure changes it. I want to do my part to try to get these security personnel. And here's the other thing too, you guys that are watching the podcast, the security owners. You got another direction. Get started. EP, get all Scott Walker, Dave Weiner, these guys. We're going to be doing other stuff too, especially the Milo train. I want to talk more about that. There'll be stuff below the podcast. You guys can look these gentlemen up. But I really want to get involved in that. I think it's really encouraging all the way around for security and people in general. I really do.
Absolutely.
And I can't thank you guys enough for again coming out this way. We're definitely going to do this again. If you guys are open to it, I'm sure you are.
Absolutely. We can continue to drain that 4 branches bottle.
Absolutely.
While we're at it.
Okay, I don't know if we have any left. Go only just sip to remember, guys. Thanks for coming.
Cheers, boys.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Comment, like, share, and subscribe.